Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of 25 with Tech 25. I am Tim Higgins, the Secretary for District 25.
And I'm Chris Fano, the Director of Technology. Welcome back, everybody.
Today we're going to be talking about Twitter. I'm sure you've heard about it. I don't know how you could be watching TV and on the internet without hearing about Twitter. And what we want to do really is, Twitter is a great place to send pictures and talk to everybody about what you eat for breakfast every day. But we found that it actually kind of works, or not kind of, it does work really well as a really great tool in the classroom and around your buildings in terms of being able to collaborate with people, to share ideas, and get ideas.
Yeah, and so today we're going to cover both just a very general overview of how Twitter can be used in education, maybe get through some of those myths about what Twitter is actually for, and then really look at how you create your account and get engaged in the community. One of the best quotes I've heard recently is, you don't really know anything about Twitter until you try it, and then once you try it, you really find it as an indispensable resource. And so that's what we're going to try to help people get to today, is how it can benefit you in your professional learning, and then how you really start engaging in the community and finding things that you can connect to. So before we jump into the app itself, I'm just going to talk briefly about what Twitter can be used for and how it could really help enhance your professional learning network and also the resources that you have. So let's first start with some misunderstandings, and Tim kind of talked a little bit about it. Yes, Twitter gets a lot of press for being just the social media where people are posting where they're at, what they're eating, opinions about celebrities, and that definitely is a use for it, and it's one of the big segments. But it certainly doesn't define it in its whole role of how it can support you. So the first thing that we're going to show you today when we go through this brief tutorial is, number one, it really is a real-time search. And it's more effective in timely issues than something like Google. A lot of people use Twitter as their main search engine now for events that are happening on a moment-to-moment basis. The second big area that it is about resources, especially in the education area. People are posting links, videos, tutorials all over the place once you start connecting with them. And it can really enhance both your access to resources and also ideas for your classroom. And that leads to another idea, just this idea of a professional learning network. We have the opportunity to sit and talk and maybe do some things in our district. But when you reach out to other educators, other organizations who support education, there is just a tremendous amount of sharing, discussion, and growing that you could do using Twitter as the main platform. So one thing I'd encourage everybody is not just to look to other educators, but things like museums and libraries and design companies. Anything that would impact your classroom can be sources of resources and connections for you. And then the last part that you'll see is there's a lot of inspiration that people get from using Twitter. So it's not just about linking to a PDF or going to another website, but in many cases you may follow people who do inspire you, who have words of encouragement or have you think a different way. And so all of those elements are part of Twitter that aren't just about following the latest gossip or the latest celebrity, and that really can be used from an educator point of view to support your own professional growth and your expansion into resources that you may have never encountered before. So those are the main areas we're going to kind of look at once you get your account set up, once you get engaged. And the real key is to say you can put yourself out there and participate by tweeting, or you can use it just as a real-time search or as a method for collecting resources. All of those are different options for you. So just get that in your mind as you kind of see the interface and how this will best help support your project.
Awesome, thank you. So what we're going to be doing right now, and this is for any of our viewers who are looking to get involved in Twitter, who maybe have not, have heard about it and have wanted to kind of dive into it, but maybe didn't know where to get started. We're going to just take a couple of minutes to kind of go through the basics of setting up an account. And once your account is set up, sort of the little bit of the layout, a little tour of our interface there. So I'm going to switch us over to our to share my screen with you. Move that out of the way. All right. And so what we're seeing here in the background is I just made a sort of a, I guess it's not really a fake account. It's a real account that maybe we'll tweet out of, but I made an account with the Tecker Turtle email address that we've been using as our sort of basic example account for everything else. I figured we'd stick with the Tecker Turtle theme. And so right here is if you're accessing it on a computer, and that's, I guess, one thing to mention right off the bat is that one of the great things about Twitter is that you can access it in all sorts of different ways. You can go on your computer, jump in any of the browsers, go to twitter.com to access your account there. But it's sort of one of the reasons that Twitter has thrived so much is that it's in this age of we're always on the move and we're always, kind of in between places. And the app for the mobile devices is actually a really great resource for Twitter as well. One of the habits that I urge everybody to sort of get into right off the bat is you have to use it. It is sort of kind of a strange habit, I guess, to get into, is where you have to stop and share a thought, or if there's something cool that you're doing in your classroom, to take the second to jump on there. Once you get used to it, it happens very quickly. But just getting on there and building the habit of posting is really important, and so that's where the mobile devices are really going to be useful. But for the sake of being able to view it and have our basic tour, we've chosen to use the browser version of it here. So this is what it looks like once you get set up. But there's a couple of things I want to point out, just again to our users and our sort of nervous tech users, of things to just kind of keep an eye out for when you are setting up your account. So right off the bat, really all you need is you give the website, give the Twitter setup, your first name or your first and last name, your email address, and a password. It's sort of the very basic place to start. Once you've entered that on the main page, it'll bring us here to where you're going to be actually selecting your username, which is kind of the most important part of this. This is going to be your Twitter handle. You may have heard that term used. And this is how you are going to be identified in sort of the Twitterverse and in the world of tweets and all of that. So picking a name, pretty important. In this particular case, Tecker Turtle, for one reason or another, I don't know why nobody's ever chosen to use that. So I was lucky enough to be able to actually just pick the full name. Twitter's been around for a couple of years, and we were kind of running into the, not really issue, but being aware of the fact that a lot of people are using this service. And you might have to be a little bit creative with your username. One of the big, I guess, suggestions I would have is to try to make it as simple as possible, to make it memorable, and not too difficult for somebody else to say, like, oh, hey, so-and-so posted something really great. How do I get back and search sort of their posts?
And I think it's a good time, too, to just talk about, people ask all the time, should I have a different Twitter account for work or for my personal side? And absolutely, that's up to your discretion. I certainly do. I have a personal Twitter account, and I have one for work. There are a lot of people who will just append SD25 to their Twitter account that they want to use for their classroom. But again, those are the things to consider. Who's your audience? What is this going to be used for when you're setting up your account?
Absolutely. So once we've taken that step into the sort of that establishing our username, and actually one thing I just want to point out before, so right below where it says choose your username, it actually gives you suggestions. So you're not completely on your own with coming up with some sort of unique name. So then we start to kind of move into establishing your account and establishing, or what Twitter is trying to help us with is establishing who you're following and what sort of subject matter Twitter is going to suggest to you. And so we kind of move into this section where it asks of your different interests and things. Now, especially if you're setting up just a work account, I would suggest unchecking all of these boxes and just starting from scratch. If it's a personal account, there's no reason to not put in the different portions of this that are interesting to you, because you're probably going to be using Twitter for a different purpose in terms of trying to, I guess, be in touch with popular culture and sports and all of that. So if you're doing a work account, I would suggest just starting from scratch, because all of these things can be added later. It makes it easier if you're sort of adding it from a basic spot. And once we've continued past this, if we've unchecked everything, it then goes even further and gives you more specific users to follow. And it typically starts with things that are like geographically near you. So we see that we have a lot of the Chicago sports sort of things have shown up. It it can base it on your recent website searches. So if you're on news sites a lot, it'll suggest that sort of thing. This is really kind of the reason I wanted to walk through here, is because, again, for our very basic users, our very, tech phobia users who are kind of easily thrown off, this can kind of be an overwhelming portion, and it doesn't really give you a very clear out. It kind of just says it really wants you to follow these 40 suggestions and kind of move on. But if you click the little X's next to all of these suggestions, you can also clear this section out, again, to start from scratch. And really, if you've cleared them out here, it's not that you can't come back and add Chicago Blackhawks in to be one of the users that you follow. But again, it makes it a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner of a start. It then gives you a section to be able to add a picture to it, personalize it a little bit. And this is another kind of a great way of networking amongst our district. We don't get a chance to go out. Everybody doesn't get a chance to go visit all the other buildings all the time. And you may have heard a name across the district, but not necessarily can put the face to the name. This is a great way of networking, getting to know the people that you're sort of working with, though you're not working right next to them. So I suggest put a picture of you or something that represents you.
Yeah, and I think it's another good time. Just we get a lot of questions again about who to follow, what to follow. Should I follow the Blackhawks while I'm following, District 25? And again, yes, there certainly is a lot of room for you to be able to follow interests and things that are relevant in your life, along with strictly educational issues. So as you see those, offerings come up, or later we'll show you, they give you suggestions all the time. We don't want you to hesitate and say, well, I shouldn't be following the Bulls on my district account. That clearly is something that would be totally fine to do. So.
Mm-hmm. And so again, it's sort of in that same vein of trying to give you followers, trying to give people to connect you with. It can also give you this option here to upload contacts out of your email account. Again, this is something else that I typically go down into this lower right-hand corner and choose the skip this step section to start fresh. And once we do that, it will bring us into the Twitter page that we saw before, and it will send you an email address to whatever email you've registered with, asking you to confirm it for security reasons, so that it's making sure that it is you and not some sort of random ad generating account. So you'll have to go into your email, confirm your account, and then you're ready to tweet.
Let's do it.
To be part of the Twitterverse, as they call it.
Yeah, I would agree. And so here's the account now that has been created, that's been set up. You're going to see a lot of stuff that's happening on the screen itself. And so just, again, no matter what interface you're using, you're going to have some of these same features. So on this left-hand side, you'll see it's giving you the idea of what hashtags are trending. And we'll talk about hashtags in a minute. But the part about Twitter that is very much real time is this idea that as topics or issues arise and people are tweeting more about them, all of the Twitter platforms are going to try to bring that to your attention so that you can also be involved with what's trending. But when I talk about real-time search, in this interface, you can see right up on the top, there's a search Twitter button. And anything that you want to be able to put in there, like you would in a regular search engine, will start returning tweets about that topic. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about hashtags in just a moment and the need for those. But a lot of people overlook the fact that Twitter is now the most widely used real-time search engine in the planet. So, for example, if we were talking about something like, we could say education conference. Now, it's a longer term. In this case, it will search for all the people that we want that have that in their title. Okay, if I just hit return, it not only gives me the results of the names, but it also will provide content now with things like education conference in the actual tweet, or pictures that have been tagged with education conference. And so you can see here there are retweets, there are people, and automatically you're getting real-time information from, in this case, 2 hours ago, about the topic that you wanted to search for. So again, this real-time search feature is, I think, a critical component that replaces a lot of what we used to do in Google, really, especially when it comes to events or breaking news.
And that's sort of where it even gives you a little bit of a step up over some of the search engines. Is that, you know, I've done it myself, where I've gone onto Google to look up some sort of very recent, you know, news, something that I know is going on now, and Google will give me or give me hits or different articles from 2 years ago that just sort of fit the keywords. Whereas Twitter's kind of, it's always searching through what is most recent, what's happening now.
Absolutely. And the navigation, again, in this interface is pretty straightforward. The home button always brings you back to your main page, however you've configured it. But then you've got a couple of these different options that, again, as you get comfortable with tweeting, you'll know that notifications, in this case, will have no notifications here. But if there's information that is directed to you or about your account, you'll be notified here. The messages, in this case, would be a direct message, and we may have time to get to that today, but this is a case where someone can send you, in essence, a personal message directly to your account that doesn't go out to the rest of the timelines for Twitter. And then this idea of discover, okay? And again, this is really where Twitter tries to leverage around it, and this is telling you, hey, here are some things that are happening around you, the popular items, what's trending, what may be near you. And this is a place to start to look, and again, to maybe get new ideas of who to follow or what information is most current or at least most popular on Twitter itself. So again, those are a couple of just the basics of what those terms are. But let's get into this idea of like who to follow or how to follow somebody. So Tim, what in education, what's a topic that you're interested in?
I'd say, well, one of the kind of cool things that was brought up the other day in a meeting that we're having, in education, it'd be kind of neat to be able to have our students connecting with I don't know, education across the world. I don't know, world education.
So even if we did something like, let's say we just did global education, and we go back to this idea of in the search window. So right away we can see they give some suggestions of people who have that in their name, and we can certainly search for all people. But I'm going to go ahead and just click on return and again do this global search. And so we're now looking at some of the recent tweets about global that have those search terms in it. And certainly they could be some companies or some people that we would want to follow. In this box, they also have this idea that they've given suggestions now for people who deal with global education. And coincidentally, if you are aware of Lucy Gray, she is one of the co-sponsors of the Global Education Network and does a large conference on global education, and certainly would be somebody in the space we'd want to follow. So let's just talk about this for just a moment. Here we could see that her name is lit up, and this is now her Twitter handle. So she's not at Lucy Gray, but she has a different name. And if we wanted to follow her, we could simply click on this button. And now we are following Lucy Gray. Just so everybody's aware, Lucy may get a notice, okay, this notification, that our account is now following her. Some people choose to turn that off, and that's all depending on your settings. But right now, she has another follower. And then in our timeline, anytime that she tweets, we'll see what she's written. You can also, if you don't want to follow right away, but maybe you want to know a little bit more about that person, okay, so in this case, we'll just follow Lucy, but we want to know a little bit more about the Global Medical Education Group. You know, I'm not familiar with them. I can click on their name, and it shows me a lot of information about them, how many tweets they've sent out, how many followers, or how many people they are following, and how many followers they have, as well as the most recent tweets that they've sent out. So this is a nice quick way to just say, okay, do I really want to engage with this group? Do they have a lot of followers? Is it who I thought it was? And again, you can go ahead and click on follow from this box as well, just to be able to establish that connection with them. So that's one way to do it. And again, this is going to be one of many ways of being able to find different people. So you can go to search and you can go and see who kind of they recommend for you. Another way to do it is to be able to actually go into a tweet itself. So let's go down here a little bit and deconstruct one of these just for a quick moment. So here's John Fallon, okay? And let's just look at this real quick. It tells a lot of information, his Twitter handle, when he tweeted, and then there's some things in here that we'll talk about in just a minute. This is actually his tweet. And in this case, we can click on his name to get that same information and go ahead and follow him if we want to. We can also get more information about what he tweeted about. So in this case, when you see the @ symbol, that's a reference to another Twitter account. And then he puts his tweet in and then finishes it off with a hashtag. The hashtag is just like a tagging your tweet so that other people could search on the same term using the search field. So anybody who used the hashtag Pearson Summit, if they included that in their tweet and we did a search for hashtag Pearson Summit, all of these people that we don't have to follow, okay, we're not following Brendan or Annabelle, but they all included this hashtag, and that's what we searched on. And so we immediately now are brought to this page that is tagged with a certain topic. In this case, this is a little conference. And now we can follow right along here with what people are tweeting about, what the resources are, what they're doing. And again, this would be another area where we could say, wow, Lionel really has some good resources. I want to go ahead and follow Lionel here and add them to my account. Okay, so it does have a tendency to start jumping you around to a couple different places. But just know what this tweet is composed of with the name, with some of these references to other Twitter accounts, and then hashtags, which are like a tag for you to be able to search on later. And it's again, it's maybe that third way that you can start trying to identify even who to follow. Okay, so is there anything else that you wanted to add about who to follow?
Well, kind of all I wanted to really do was head back over here to home. We're now, I would just like to point out that because we're now following, we see over here in our sort of upper left-hand little status bar here that we were following one person, and now the page that was very blank before has now been filled with a whole thread of Lucy Gray's tweets from, you know, the past at least all day today.
She tweets a lot.
Up top, though, and again, if you are starting this fresh, one of the best places to kind of start with is people amongst our own, around our own district. And so if I come up here and do, and just start typing in at AHSD 25, we see that in here show up a bunch of actually relatively familiar suggestions. And so to really just right off the bat, I would suggest making that search and then just clicking on some familiar suggestions and just starting to kind of follow around our district. And as soon as I've done that, we see that up top we have even more suggestions that have just kind of fallen down. And as we can see, the whole Twitter idea is that it's really built around networking. And as you can see, it's kind of throwing it right at you that the power that comes out of this is from following, and not even necessarily as many people as possible, but following the right people and the right subject matter to kind of give you the information and the collaboration that you're looking for. So if I start just kind of following all of our different schools, if I go home, we'll see that it's my timeline here is getting a lot richer with the information that we're adding. So over here on the right hand side too, we have a little bit of a suggestion bar again, kind of giving us the different individuals of our district.
And so now you can kind of see you've built up some followers, you're getting some information in, and that's great. Right now we're just kind of on the receiving end of all of these different resources. Our district's using it more and more. Your local district for your children may be using it. And what we want to talk about in the last 2 minutes here is what do you do next? So let's say you're following. Here you can see there's some links and resources, some information about school closing. That's great. It's a source of information. But what we want to do is how do we engage? The easiest thing that you could do right away is do something called retweeting. So let's say this was important information and you wanted to retweet it. In this interface, this double arrow icon right here allows you to retweet it, which means it would send it out to your followers. Now, what people worry about initially is they don't have a lot of followers, and that's okay. You'll build them up as you start following people and they follow you back. But retweeting is a way to, again, share the information out with your group or be able to extend it on if you have another thought that you want to put on it. So retweeting is a pretty easy and safe way that a lot of people engage. And the last one that we're going to kind of finish off with is this idea of you composing your own tweet and getting your thoughts and resources out so you can contribute. Again, on the web page, there's this big blue button in the upper right-hand corner called Tweet. When you click on that, you get a little window that says Compose New Tweet. And here, you're free to go as long as you keep it under 140 characters, that it will let you know how far you've gone. And really, as you get more sophisticated with it, your messages can include links to videos, to other web pages. You can include photos and other things within the tweet itself. But we're going to just kind of do a basic one so you can see the composition component of it. You could say something like, thank you to all the viewers of this, and I'm going to use a hashtag. Okay, this is the hashtag that we use for our district. So right now I've tagged it with this AHSC25 hashtag. And then if I wanted to reference somebody, okay, again, as you can see, as soon as you start typing, it gives suggestions. Right now I have a tweet that just would go out into all of my followers that would say that thank you for watching this video. This is at Tim Higgins, okay, or Thiggs007. And he will get that message directly, and then anybody who searches on the hashtag AHSC25 would be able to search that as well. Again, as I mentioned, you can add a photo. You can also copy and paste in a link. And then when you have it the way that you want to, you can hit tweet. And we can see right here, we've done our first tweet out of this account. And it's gone out, and you would be able to go and search AHSC25 in that Twitter one and be able to find it. And hopefully Mr. Higgins will get a nice compliment from his turtle.
Absolutely. That's what I live for.
Yeah, it is to live for. So we did go a couple of minutes over, but we did want to cover kind of, again, the basics of not only just how to compose a tweet or how to set up an account, but really the value of this to the people who sometimes maybe step back and say, I'm uncomfortable engaging with it, or it just serves a limited purpose. You can see in a short time here, we've got some resources, we've got news, we've got information, we've got events coming up. And you can really extend your network quickly, maintain it over time, and be able to just hone it into your interests and your needs at that time.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I just really want to kind of push everybody to make an account. You don't even have to, tweet for the first time that you set this account up. Just get on there, start clicking, start following people, and start to see the ideas that are out there. We have some staff members in our district that do some amazing things and share them out to the world here with Twitter. Some that have actually even led to international sort of relationships. I know that Kathleen Corley was connected through another staff member with a classroom in Australia. And I think it was a classroom of second graders were able to kind of send questions through the teachers, of course, send questions back and forth to this classroom in Australia and kind of share all sorts of cultural ideas and similarities and really kind of, expand their world a little bit more, all through this simple service.
So thank you again for joining us for this episode of 25 with Tech 25 about Twitter basics. Remember, like Tim said, set up your account, get going. If you need help, ask your tech team in your building, or you can always email us at tech25@sd25.org, or send a tweet out to @AHSD25tech, and we'll be able to assist you. Have a wonderful afternoon and have fun tweeting.
Thanks for watching.